Hi everyone, welcome back to my craft desk. Today I'm going to show you how to make paper look like old leather. So what we're going to do is transform a brown paper bag into something like this that resembles old leather. It's actually very easy to do, but it comes up with a really cool vintage sort of leather finish, which I'm going to use to bind some junk journals with. So let's get started. You're going to need a brown paper bag. Any brown paper bag, an Amazon packaging bag is always good. The brown paper packaging you get sometimes in your parcels, that's also good. It's something that you can screw up into a ball. So it's got to be thin enough to screw up into a ball, but thick enough to keep its shape. You're going to need a selection of inks. So I'm going to use the Distress inks in a variety of brown and red tones. You're going to need some PVA glue and water or Mod Podge. A little bit of brown toned acrylic paint. And then just something to mix it all together with when it comes to that point. And then the magic ingredients. Some hair conditioner. The hair conditioner, we'll see what you use it for a moment. It doesn't matter what conditioner it was. This is just a freebie, an old one from a hotel I've got hanging around. Could be anything. Suggest you don't use your best conditioner. But any hair conditioner will do. So first thing we're going to do is take our bag and we are going to open it up. You don't have to be neat at this point. Rip it open, cut down the sides. Oh, yeah, just rip it. There you go. It wants to rip. Rip it open. So we've got a piece of paper to be playing with. I'm just going to cut up this edge here. Use this one side for this demonstration. And I'm going to take the handle bit off. We don't need that bit. And it's easier to work on a flat piece of paper. So once you've got your little piece of paper, what you're going to do is you're going to take all your anger out on it. You're going to screw it up. Screw it up into a really tight ball and unscrew it. You're going to do this, I've got a rip in it already, doesn't really matter, a couple of times. Each time you do it, focus on a different part of the paper. So you're going to screw it up, you're going to unscrew it, I'm going to go for the centre now, screw up from the centre, and once it's nice and wrinkly, we're going to open it up and try and flatten it out as much as possible back to that original sheet of paper. The more you wrinkle it at this point, the better the results will be when it comes to inking. I'm just going to rip this join off here and I'm just going to sprinkle this bit again. So you have a wrinkly sheet of paper. What you're going to do now is ink this paper. So the colour of the ink you use and the brand of the type of ink you use doesn't really matter. But what you're going to do is rub your ink pads over the top of this gently. And what it's going to do, as you can see, is start to highlight those raised edges of your paper. So at this point, it doesn't have to be particularly neat. You just want to get a general base cover. I work with 3 or 4 different colours of brown, so I'm using Vintage Photo, which is the first one, Aged Mahogany, which is obviously a darker one, and all I'm doing is just picking random parts of the paper to highlight in each colour. Don't worry if you think, oh, I've put that on, it's a bit too brown over there, because you can always go over it again with a different one. So I'm actually going to add some red. I've done this adding a bit of red and a bit of green so far, and they've both worked out well. So just picking random parts of the design to do in that red tone, and then if you think it's a little bit too red, you're going to go back in with something darker and keep layering it up until you're happy that you've got full coverage. So I'm going to go in with the black and just go over a little bit of that red where I think it's slightly too red. There we go, but leave the red showing in others. Now it's gone too dark, so I'm going to put a lighter brown back on the top. And I think I'm quite happy with that coverage. I will show you up close in a second. There we go. So as you can see, all the raised parts are inked. We've got some bits down here that are darker. We've got some bits that are not so dark. But I'm quite happy. I think I want to put a little bit more in this bit here. So I think I'm going to put a bit more. There we go. There. Do you want a general coverage over your page? There we go. So once that's happening, you're happy with what you've got there, you're going to get your magic ingredient. In this case, this conditioner. You're going to put a blob in your hand. You're going to rub your hands together and you're going to rub the paper. So what you're doing at this point is using the conditioner to smooth out those wrinkles you put in. What it also does is it A, makes the paper smell really, really nice. It B, makes it almost like a fabric texture once you finished it. The conditioner is sort of smoothing down the fibres of the paper to make it more flexible. As you can see with this piece here, it's very flexible. It's very strong and it's very flexible, and that's the conditioner. So we're just going to smooth it down a little tiny bit more, but you do only need a little bit. When I did this the first time, I put way too much on and I had bubbly paper, not the desired effect I was going for. And then once you've got the majority of the creases out and you can sort of feel it smooth, it doesn't have to be perfect, but smoother than it was, and you've got all the edges, we're just going to put this to one side to dry, and we're going to prepare our mixture. So you can use Mod Podge for this, but depending on the type of finish of the paper, it depends on what you want. So I want there to be a slight sheen to it, but not too much. If you wanted a shine, you could add gloss or use a gloss medium, but I don't want it to be that shiny, so I am just going to use some old school PVA glue, just cheap PVA glue. I'm going to take the lid off of mine and pour it because I know the nozzle is blocked. We're going to add a little bit to the bowl. I always put too much in. And I've also got glue all over the bowl, so I'm going to wipe all over the bowl, all over the bottle, so I'm going to just wipe that down a second. I mean, I do like peeling PVA glue off things, so I'm not that concerned. And then I'm going to add the same amount with just water. I've got a bottle of water here just because I'm drinking from it. Tap water, any water, it doesn't have to be anything particular. And then I'm going to mix it. To start with, it looks like a mess. The more you mix it, the more it combines and it turns into a thick water paste. You want it to be watery, but you also just want a little bit of that glue to thicken it up. You're always trying to make a water glue paste, like a paint consistency almost. So once you think you've got all of that in, I'm then going to tint it with a little tiny bit of acrylic paint. You can use any medium for this. You can use alcohol ink, you can use acrylic paint. Just using a bit of this burnt sienna because I like the colour. And literally a little blob. You can see it's already working to change the colour. And what I'm going to do is just make sure that it's mixed all the way through. And it just tints the, there we go, tints the water glue mixture. And that just gives it a little bit more of that leather effect. Mixy, 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 mix. The wetter this mixture is the longer it's going to take to dry, but it doesn't affect the final outcome of the project. Just takes a bit longer to dry. There we go. So we're now going to get our piece. It's had a couple of moments for the conditioner to sit in, and we are going to paint this mix all over our paper. Then, once we've covered the whole thing in our nice glue mix, we're going to dry it. You can let it sit and dry naturally, or you can use your heat gun. I'm going to get my heat gun out because I'm impatient and I like to see the end result. Just be aware if you are using a heat gun to continually move it around the project so it doesn't wrinkle. And there you have it. So that's about 3/4 of the way dry. Now you can see the slight sheen from where we've got the PVA glue in that project. And that is another sheet of the fake leather to use on your projects. Hopefully you found this interesting and you will use it and try and make some for your own projects. I will hopefully make some projects with it soon and show you what it looks like. I will see you all soon. Thank you. Bye.